We're here at the Hound Lodge, deep in the Goodwood estate, and it's an iconic venue for an iconic British brand, Aston Martin, and its latest offering, the DBS Superleggera. It's been a busy old time for Aston Martin of late. They've turned into a public limited company, and there's a seemingly endless list of new models and new things we can look forward to. We have an SUV on the horizon this year in the DBX. We've got a hypercar, the Valkyrie. It looks fantastic, Adrian Newey design. But for the moment, we've only got front-engined Aston Martins, and this is the daddy of them all. It's basically a DB11 on steroids, and it's this DBS Superleggera. V12 5.2 litre engine, twin turbo, 715 horsepower, but the real story is that 664 pounds-foot of torque, which gives you all of that thrust in this car and effortless acceleration in pretty much any gear you choose. Carbon bodywork all over, and that's in an effort to live up to this Superleggera, super lightweight name, which is obviously a nod back to the 50s and 60s and the bodywork house out of Italy that made the cars for the DB4, DB5. The designer of the car, Marek Reitman, describes this car as a brute in a suit, and I think that's a great description for something that looks so muscular, almost looks like it's straining to get out of its bodywork. A really good looking car, wide, big, but really living up to that Super GT styling, and gives you that really aggressive stance with this huge, exaggerated air intake at the front, which is very Aston Martin, but moving it along a lot more from where it used to be. So the first thing you notice about this car is just how effortless it is. Of course, with those huge reserves of power, it goes along in pretty much any gear, and there's power underfoot at any time you need it. It's happy in automatic with that 8-speed box, but you can override it with these nice big paddle shifts on the side of the wheel here. The sound's just about right. You want a nice loud sound in V12, but obviously you don't want it too loud when you're going continent crossing in this car, and it's just a super comfortable car. It is a Super GT in every sense, but don't let that fool you, because the speeds are supercar-like in this car. 3.4 seconds to 60, 211 miles an hour. So it's a very, very fast car. And that speed comes easy with that twin turbo V12. Just has so much horsepower. But it's not just that 715 horsepower that really makes a difference. It's a 664 pounds-foot of torque. That's the real story about this car. That mid-range, low-rev torque is just incredible and gives it a really special characteristic. And it's the sort of characteristic you want on those long journeys, or you don't want them to feel too tiring. Inside, well, it's very DB11-like, but with swathes of leather as you'd expect. And the Mercedes-sourced infotainment system, a big step up from the Aston Martin systems of old. So all in all, a very, very capable Super GT that will take you from country to country in a very relaxing but quick way. It's quite big on these sort of B roads. It feels quite wide, but once you get used to the handling, the steering is a lot quicker than it used to be on Aston Martins, and it feels really precise, and it's beautifully weighted. The car's dynamics, I'm sure Matt Becker has been working his magic over at Aston Martin to get this car feeling exactly like it should do. And it wants to sit there somewhere between the Vantage and the DB11 in terms of its dynamic handling. The Vantage being a little bit more hardcore a sports car, and this being more of a Super GT. The big story, of course, is the badge. Aston Martin's an enormously important brand, an enormously important British brand that just has such strong following outside of the car world. It constantly ranks in the coolest brands in the world, and that helps when you've got the badge on the front of a car, especially when it looks as good as this one. I don't think it's any coincidence that this car is called the DBS Superleggera. At the same time, we have a Ferrari 812 Superfast. So that's an Italian car with a British name. And here we have a British car with an Italian name. And they both occupy that same sort of space, which is a front-engined V12 big GT car with seating for 4. This car has a lot different driving characteristics than the 812 Superfast, which is a normally aspirated V12 that screams its way up to those speeds. This car does it in a much more powerful, relaxed fashion at lower revs. The end result is pretty similar as regards statistics, but you get there in a completely different way. At £225,000, competition is really the Ferrari 812 and the Bentley Continental GT. And for the moment, this is the halo model in the Aston Martin range, and it certainly looks the part from the outside and in. The DBS Superleggera, Aston Martin's ultimate Super GT. Perfect if you have some continent hopping to do, and especially if you want to do it quickly and in style.